murder is still unsolved. We still don't know exactly what happened.
Yeah, it would be interesting. So I take it the FBI probably did other investigations beyond this. They must have talked to his family and friends and found out who he was associating with.
Yes.
And
he did not associate with the best folks. Again, if he had a handicap of some kind or some kind of mental issue, he may have just not thought about it and didn't realize that he was getting himself into a bad situation, and somebody might have taken advantage of it. It's difficult to say.
Yeah, I don't know.
So my twist on this is that his murderer was like, yeah, you can write all the notes you want if you write it in the handwriting you use.
Yeah.
Because he knew that would be the only person that...
Yeah.
And the guy's like, I'm going to write a letter for help. And he's like, yeah, fine.
Go for it,
Do whatever
buddy.
you want, man.
Yeah.
Fine.
Very well could have been it. I don't know.
Gosh.
Well, my theory is that he had all this encrypted stuff around. You know, some of his scumbag friends saw this and they said, "What?" You know, and they're like, "Why are you encrypting this stuff?" And, well, it's like this is like directions on how to find this buried treasure. That's like billions of dollars worth of gold bullion and everything like that. So they tortured him until he finally just even though it was gibberish, he finally said, okay, you drive out here, 20 paces this way, 30 paces this way, and it's there. And they're like, great, and they kill him and they dump the body in a cornfield. And of course, when they get to where the buried treasure is, well, the joke's on them.
Who knows? There's no answers. There is, however, a bit of follow-up mystery.
Oh,
cool.
To this whole thing.
Okay.
And we've encountered this on stories before, and let me give you some of this follow-up mystery or twists. 4 years before Ricky died, so this is 1995, the police found the body of an alleged prostitute who was shot to death in a house near where Ricky was found, on the same stretch of road not too far away.
sure.
In 2001, road crews found the bodies of two naked women 300 yards from where Ricky's body was found.
Huh.
It could be that there potentially could be some psychopath that's out there that's using that stretch of road to do their business and dump their evidence or their bodies off of. And Ricky this may not have anything to do. Again, it might be just
Pure coincidence,
that this happened, or it might be a coincidence that he had these notes in his pocket and he just got caught up in something that somebody was doing that they had their own compulsion for. But it could also mean that he was identifying who the killer was. He might have found out about it, and they came after him, and he wrote it down, and they couldn't figure that was, and they let him go.
To get back to what I was saying, it's like everybody, including the FBI, thinks that what is in this message is something of supreme value, which is why they're devoting huge resources to it. So if you're one of Ricky's scumbag friends and you find this coded message, you're going to draw the same conclusion as the FBI. You're going to think there's something of supreme value in here, and you're going to torture Ricky until he tells you what is in the message. Now, if it's just gibberish, he'll just make something up.
Well,
that could be what it is.
We don't know.
That's pure speculation.
He could have been tortured.
Yeah,
he could have been suffocated. The state of the body was. It's very difficult to know.
Yeah,
that's where it ends.
Yeah,
that's where the whole thing ends.
So there have been no good attempts at this, huh?
There are all kinds of sites, and again, I've got the links to them, and we'll be putting those up on the page. There are links to people who are trying to figure it out, and they're giving their theories, and they're working it back and forth. But as of yet, nothing that is even close to being possibly viable. And so, another story that we don't have an answer to.
Another unsolved mystery. Yeah, and that's the thing about it is it's like you don't really know if there is an answer to it.
There may never be. But
really may never be. Yeah.
Well, if you folks want to go ahead and you want to check out the links, you want to find these discussion boards and these places, or just take a look at the notes themselves, you're more than welcome to do that. All of those will be available on the website. That website is thinkingsidewayspodcast.com. If you think that you have an idea of how to break the cipher and you feel like telling us instead of the FBI, well, you're more than welcome to do that. We promise to take credit for it. You can send us an email at thinkingsidewayspodcast@gmail.com. And with that, we're going to get out of here, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
sideways.
I don't understand.
Does not compute.
You never know.
Insufficient data to formulate a reply.
Stories of things we simply don't know the answer to.
Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Thinking Sideways. I'm Joe, joined as always by
Steve.
And Devin.
and we're here to solve another mystery. You ready?
Sure.
Yeah.
What are we
Okay.
talking about?
This week we're going to be looking into the mystery of the Mills family of Berkeley, California. Al and Jeannie Mills lived at 2731 Woolsey Street in Berkeley with two of their 5 children, Eddie and Daphne. And in February 1980, Al, Jeannie, and Daphne were found murdered. Each one shot execution style with a .22 caliber bullet in their heads.
And they were exploding 22 bullets, weren't they? I've seen that somewhere.
I did not see that particular one. It's possible, and you could have an exploding one like.
I'm guessing
Day
they
of
were
the
mostly
Jackal.
just a hollow point, but
Yeah, I mean, you can make things like that. Like you see, did you see Day of the Jackal or read the book?
no.
Yeah, he made these little exploding ones using mercury.
Okay.
Drilled them out.
That's
Yeah,
off
yeah.
the point, but I was just.
It's-
I've
yeah.
seen it said that they were shot in the head with exploding 22 caliber rounds.
Yeah. That I do not know. I think just a regular 22 round will probably do the trick, though.
I think almost anything point blank will do the trick.
Yeah, probably. Actually, blanks will kill you at point blank.
Yeah,
range.
I think probably
Yeah.
even like a pellet gun point blank would like
Do
if
some
you put
serious
it in the
harm.
right place. Yeah.
it'll do some damage. Yeah. Oh, anyway, but of course, Eddie is unaccounted for here. Eddie was not killed.
Oh.
Eddie was 17 at the time. He was in his bedroom. He apparently said that he'd gone into his room, smoked a little pot, and was watching TV. And he lived through the whole thing and didn't hear anything, was completely unaware. Apparently his grandmother came over for a visit, and she's the one who discovered the bodies. And then maybe went and knocked on Eddie's door and said, "Hey, Eddie, are you aware that everybody's dead out here?"
Well, and was it Jeannie or Daphne who didn't die that day, but 2 days later in the hospital?
I thought it was Daphne.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking, because
Yeah.
I can't remember which one it was. But one of
Yeah.
them survived for a short amount of time because she locked herself in the bathroom, I think.
Back to our murder. No murder weapon was found. They never found it. And so our unsolved mystery here is who killed the Mills family?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good question, right?
It's a very good question.
Yeah. The police were suspicious of Eddie because, after all, gunshots make a lot of noise, and it seemed impossible that he couldn't have heard them.
Well, he could have been washing his hair,
Yeah.
just like Chutney.
Yeah. Could have been why. Could have had the volume turned
Got
up really
up.
loud in his TV.
Got up, had a
Yeah.
latte,
Yeah.
went to the gym, got a perm,
Yeah.
came home,
Yeah.
got in the shower, washed her hair, and then found.
What movie are you playing off of?
What, Legally Blonde?
Okay.
Have you guys not memorized that movie?
I haven't even seen it, actually.
No, I
Oh.
haven't. I've only seen bits of it.
Sorry.
Yeah,
But,
okay.
What I was going to say about Eddie is I only found one source for this, but one source said that he was actually in his room listening to the stereo with headphones on.
Yeah, I've heard that too. So that could also account for it. And also,
That would explain why he didn't hear the shot.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, another thing that would explain it is there is a little thing called a suppressor. You know. Which,
Well, and if he was watching TV loud, if it was like a violent show or something like that.
something with a like
What?
gunfire. Yeah.
No, I looked up what was on TV that day.
What was it?
I don't. It was sitcoms because there was 3 major networks this is 1980. There's not a lot of TV channels, and they were all sitcoms at the time. So it wasn't anything that would have had violent gun battles going on that might have blended in with the shots.
Sure, but like really loud yelling or things like that. That's a mainstay of sitcoms and
True.
laugh tracks and things
Yeah.
like that. Although laugh tracks, interestingly enough, laugh tracks didn't exist in the 80s, but that's another story for another time.
Yeah.
No, genuinely they didn't. But this, I don't know. Maybe with the headphones on, he could have been watching TV with headphones on.
Yeah. Or like again, they used the suppressor. I did.
Yeah,
my,
it doesn't make them silent, right? But it will make them much quieter. And if you've
Yeah.
got loud noises on in the other room, then you're pretty
Yeah.
much golden.
Yeah, and I'm not sure where his bedroom was. I assume it was upstairs. I got on Street View and looked at the neighborhood. It's all older 2-story houses. And another reason I think they might have used a suppressor is the houses are really close together.
Well, yeah.
None of the neighbors heard anything.
I was going to say, nobody reported hearing gunshots.
Yeah, there are no shouts or gunshots reported by anybody.
Yeah, the shouts thing is like the weirder part to me, I guess. Anyway, I'm sure we'll get there, but I think we have other things to be talking about right now, right?
I
There would have been
theory
some screaming and shouting.
I have a theory as to why they didn't do that.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
Yeah, okay. So police were suspicious of Eddie because of the gunshot thing.
Sure.
Also, there was no sign of any forced entry, which again is not necessarily completely damning. But,
I would say not even a little. I mean,
yeah, they tested his hands. They found a little bit of gunpowder residue on the right hand. There was a possible motive for Eddie to kill them, which is that he eventually did wind up inheriting some money. $247,000, which would be over $700,000 in today's money.
Okay, well.
That's an okay motive. I don't know if I'd kill my family over $700,000. I don't think I would.
I don't think I would either, but I like my family.
It depends on the day for me.
Yeah, that's the whole point, right? Is do you like your family? Do you have a good relationship with your family? Although, in fairness, I don't think I would kill anyone.
I wouldn't kill three strangers for $700,000.
Yeah,
No, I wouldn't do it either.
So.
But the local district attorney's office didn't bring any charges against Eddie, and the case was dropped. They cited a lack of evidence.
Which is fair.
Yeah, and there was another consideration, which is that Alan Genie Mills had enemies who wanted them dead, and these people had killed people before, and so
Possibly. We don't know that for completely ironclad sure,
yeah.
but quite possibly.
Yeah, well, some of them did actually do some killing, but we'll talk about that later. And so in the absence of a really ironclad case, I mean, Eddie's defense attorneys would have had no trouble at all convincing the jury, or at least planting a little doubt in their heads that it was somebody else who did the
Nothing else get a hung jury out of it,
yeah, so another great reason not to bring a case and try to put them on trial. You probably want to know about those deadly people I was talking about.
I'd like to know about them, yeah.
You want to know about them? Okay.
Yeah.
So Alan Genie and their kids had been involved for several years with a church called the People's Temple, which had been, and probably most of our listeners have heard of the People's Temple.
Jim Jones, yeah.
Jim Jones, yeah, Jonestown and all that stuff, yeah. They were involved with those guys, and they started in 1969, I believe, they joined the church, and stayed with it until 1975. After they left the temple, they set in motion a chain of events that eventually would result in an assassination, lots and lots of murders, and a whole bunch of suicides as well. Although almost everybody in the People's Temple died, probably about 100 survived. And of those 100, some of them were okay, and they were just regular people who had kind of been held prisoner in Jonestown or wherever. I mean, some of them were actually psychos who participated in the whole killing spree. There was, I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but everybody thinks that at Jonestown they all drank the Kool-Aid and died, committed suicide. But as it happens, it appears that a substantial number of the people there were actually murdered.
And I know we're going to dive into this pretty deep here shortly. So
and I guess
hold back.
but I do want to clarify for those listeners who are unfamiliar, Joe is not just using a term. It's not turning a phrase of drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, they really drank
in this
the Kool-Aid.
Situation. People literally drank the Kool-Aid and died.
They sure did.
I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit, but I just wanted to go ahead and point that out.
Fun fact, it was actually Flavor Aid.
Yeah.
Not Kool-Aid.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's just so... Yet again, another mark against Jones. He cheaps out. He doesn't sprinkle the good stuff.
No, it's one of those things, I can't think of the term for it, when a brand name becomes so recognized with a product that's what everybody calls it regardless of what it is. It's like Kleenex. I need a Kleenex.
Yeah.
Or a Band-Aid.
Or a Band-Aid.
Or a Xerox.
Yeah, it's exactly
Kool-Aid,
that. That's why it's the Kool-Aid, because that's what everybody called it, no matter what it was.
Yeah, that's how I would have gotten out of being forced to drink the Kool-Aid. I would have said, I'm sorry, I don't drink that cheap crap. You go get me some Kool-Aid, then we'll talk. Oh, okay, where was I?
I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I was talking about how their actions eventually caused the whole thing that happened at Jonestown. I mean, obviously they didn't deliberately wish for all those people to die. Quite the opposite. But among the survivors were the worst of the worst. The ones who acted as temple as guards and who administered beatings to people, and the ones who forced people to drink the Kool-Aid in the end, and murdered a bunch of people at the airstrip. We'll talk about that a little later, too. And you can bet that those people blamed Alan Genie Mills for the destruction of their nifty little cult.
Being the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, Jones was unstable, and he'd been talking about mass suicide since 1971.
Yeah.
That's the earliest.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had actually.
We'll talk about the White Knights.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The White Knights are crazy. The whole thing is actually this whole episode is just insane. I read quite a large number of FBI files on this whole thing.
As did I.
Yeah, and they interviewed all the survivors and stuff, and about the insanity of this whole thing. It's just, and I had always known about this, but not in such detail.
This is one of those ones where you start reading it and then you just get sucked into the documents. And wait, I got to read the next one, and I got to read the next one, and I know it's midnight, but I got to read the next one.
I didn't do that with this one, but I did that with something that's upcoming. So,
it's easy to do.
Yeah, it's really easy.
Yeah.
I do it fairly frequently.
Yes, we
Yeah.
You can waste a lot of time on this stuff. Although it's not a total waste of time. I gleaned some good information out of there.
Absolutely.
But it was like a lot of reading, and then here's a little nugget, and then here's a little nugget.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's the FBI files. They're all redacted, so it's hard to read.
All these blacked out things, you know. Yeah. Al and Jeannie Mills used to be called Elmer and Deanna Myrtle. Then they changed their name after they left the People's Temple. So the Myrtles joined the People's Temple when it was in Ukiah, California. Originally, they started out in Indiana, eventually. Yeah. And then Jones got a little paranoid about nuclear war, and he'd read an article in the Atlantic where he heard that, the whole, Northern California kind of redwoods area is a really good place to survive a nuclear war.
Which is true.
Is that why you left Indiana? I thought it was just that he was starting...
That too. But there was he apparently was very concerned about the possibility of nuclear war. And of course, this was in the
This
60s.
was that time, yeah.
It was in the 60s when, a lot of people were kind of concerned about that possibility.
Still slightly concerned about it today.
Yeah, me too, yeah. Although I'm more concerned about, asteroid impacts. But we'll talk about that in another episode. Yeah. So I've already talked about Jim Jones, James Warren Jones. He preached the gospel that the Myrtles kind of liked. It was all about equality and people helping each other. And he was opposed to racism, and he was he did more and more, he got more stridently sort of socialistic and blamed the rich.
Did.
Yeah, blamed the rich for all the ills of the world and stuff. And in the early days, the temple really did do some good works. They would take in drug addicts and straighten them out, and of course, that's kind of like what the Scientologists do, too, so I don't know. Maybe they had an ulterior motive there. They also encouraged adoption. They encouraged all their members to adopt kids if they could afford it. Jim Jones and his wife adopted 5 kids. So
that's a passel of kids.
That's a whole lot of kids. And they also had one of their own, Stephen Jones, who turned out to be kind of even a bigger psycho than his dad.
That's so weird. Sorry. Growing up, next to me, there was a family that moved into this very large house, and they were evangelical Christians, and they had 1 child, and they adopted 5 more.
What's her name? Jones?
No.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you what it was.
No. I'm guessing that basically this, just hearing that and reading that, kind of brought that memory back and creeps you out.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's weird. They were a little creepy. He was definitely Flanders-esque. But in a creepy way. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, back to the story.
Okay, yeah. So the Mills, even though they were at this time still named Myrtle, they
the Myrtles are the Mills.
Yeah.
They changed their entire names.
Yeah, first and last name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Good.
So
Good clarifying.
Yeah.
Good.
So from this point forward, are we calling them the Myrtles or the Mills?
I'm just going to call them the Mills.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right. That's probably a good way to go.
Yeah, I think so too. Jeannie Mills eventually became head of the temple's publications office, and Al served as the official church photographer, among other things. I think they still kept their day jobs, or at least I'm pretty sure Al did. And even though the Mills liked the temple and they liked Jim Jones, he was pretty authoritarian even back then. And that was the thing that just grew and grew and grew as just time went by. He just slowly amped it up after the nuttiness. He also had a lot of strange rules. Everybody was required to write out and sign a confession to some heinous crime or another, like a murder, rape, robbery, or something.
To just whatever.
And sign it, and then they had to, and then hand the confession over to Jones for safekeeping.
Well, that's a good way to control the crap out of people.
I know.
If you have a signed confession from somebody, you say, do this or I'm giving this to the cops.
Well, I also wonder if it was just, I'm just trying to figure out how that was pitched to get people to do it. And I'm wondering if that was something that he pitched as, this is a form of confession, maybe. You didn't do this particular thing, but it's going to free your soul or wipe the slate clean for you. I mean, It's just
Not
weird. I'm just trying to figure out
not to draw too many.
how do you get people to do it?
I
Yeah.
think, not to draw too many parallels, but, we've talked about the Church of Scientology gets people to sign contracts for literally all of the rest of their lives for eternity. So how do you pitch that without, there's some stuff that people do for religion or belief